Pristine Universe Citizen presents New Era Religion, episode 76, July 1st, 2022. Planet U. Planet U for universe, utopia, unity, unique, is where metaphysical intellect's omnirational, generalized conceptioning field of thought imagines for initiating the concept of true democracy's newest conceivable environmental condition. Planet U is uninhabited by the human species. Planet U provides a relatively pristine environment that is not violated by the PRJWBCSchemes, the world's governing systems, and corrupted human events as are now manifest on planet Earth. Among human events is the EISEDP, Synergetics 502.22. The EISEDP is the self-regenerative, irreversible succession of human events as experiences, intuitions, speculations, experiments, discoveries, productions. Reenacting articulating process is non-identically repetitive, repeating the residual inaccuracies of observation and articulation, nevertheless. So it is possible to conceive of conducive environmental conditions for the human imagination wherever humans of a mind, our evolution species, happens to project this ability to formulate conceptually anywhere in universe. We seem to be designed with a potential employment of consciousness evolution's anticipatory awareness of this EISEDP order of human events. It is where experience comes before thinking, but needs not to be repeatedly illogical concerning self-other destruction. Being repeatedly illogical is a mindlessness of starting with the whole WHOLE universe, correlating to first things first, such as conceptually abstracting a system as the first subdivision of universe. All humans seem prone to conceptualizing as a function of the information-gathering local problem-solving process. Mostly, this is subconsciously memory storing what is gleaned from the physical environment without necessarily detailing what attracted the observing self's momentary focus, which does not necessarily detail all aspects of the articulated case. The reenacting articulations are special case, time, size, physical in any event. Even the brain-stored imaginary unreal events perhaps may be generalized to the vectorial geometry and topology of the minimum thinkable set. The minimum thinkable set is potentially correlative to consciously knowledgeable competence that the writing talent, an improvable skill, can mindfully, consciously put into words. And as the mathematical mentality relates to numbers and symbols, from its educated interest in what is happening and what may potentially comprise a differently conceived condition correlatively to survival. The survival is of self and survival of the others as well. Survival involves the natural atoms, the minutest conceivable entities in the physical life-sustaining environment. Such environments are not limited to planet Earth, which presently is the self-other destructive scenario universe from which omnicomprehensive mentalities feel compelled to leave behind. Logically, this is because the critical proximity to harm generations of humans is closer associated with the irrational, critically, redundantly, ignorantly emulating fear-engendering mentality. Primarily, humans are not in a critical proximity survival for most of our whole WHOLE lifetime. Nevertheless, intuition induces the conscious observer's survival mechanisms to prepare for the best and not the worst case scenario, to survive whatever was not anticipated, not expected to some degree of harm for each of us, can be a catastrophic experience. In the grand scheme of things, it may be impossible to predict the ruinous abusiveness humans can impose upon each other without the slightest concern that survival is at stake for every fiber of one's being, all those aspects we rarely give thought to, but want to survive the human condition, the human innovations and inventions that exploit the value of doing harm. Such exploitation correlates closely to profiting by the interaction, the interrelating communications process, to gain control that the prevailing authoritative mentality devises that cannot be free of harm if harm is not factored out of the contemporary design. Systemic thought refers to what it thus far knows about profiting as an emulative behavioral trait permitted by the authority in power. Profiting is at the expense of something and or someone. The more personal, the closer akin to the inner circle of influence that can be familial, societal, political, religion-related, judicial, war-making, by officials and beneficiaries trusted to perform as expected, to behave according to the established standards. The established standards are not necessarily benign by any stretch of the human imagination, and so the predilection standard to which humans adopting it is individual as a behavioral preference. The behavioral preference is where aversions to fear-engendering, variously contrived inventive standards are substandard, repugnantly experienced as opposition to any loving, engendering, redeeming quality of life. There can seem to be no escape as humanly contrived events take their toll, and as some of the people, some of the time, want truly to remedy the predicament only to learn more has intervened from one point to the next in a type of spiraling out of control loss of freedoms, where there is no threat against freedom to survive the moment. The experience can seem so innocuous that it does not dawn on us to value the immediately experienced equanimity as a design function. It can seem that equanimity will last forever until news events filter in for the wake-up call that everyone is in a critical proximity to randomly impacting interferences, rendering any human condition a potentially unsafe environment despite the relative calm. This is not to suggest fear engendering is the preferred motivation, but that since a mind's awareness of the potential omnirational generalized conceptioning field of thought is a viable alternative option, then how does the metaphysical intellect, as a function of omnirational universe, eventually recognize such potential for redirecting consciousness evolution? Synergetically informed intuition is well aware of the prevailing PRJWBCS politics, religion, justice, war, belief complex schemes that prefer inherited hierarchies of power for emulating repetitive scenarios where survival seems to follow some perpetrated game plan. Most likely, it is not too difficult to adopt the laws and schemes as a proven tried and true inducement along those lines of thinking. Of course, knowing all that can be involved throughout the interactions, interrelating, ramifying culminations usually is not factored into the developing scenarios as episodic durations nonetheless occur and recur. The ramifying culminations have peaks and valleys, unexpected turns of events, both as human events and nature's environmental events. Quite then, there may be no time to put in a semblance of order the facts of self-other observed experiences before the inane reality comes crashing in, where moments before a sense of contentment with the living condition in the immediate world cause no instinctive, intuitive, speculative survival options to make haste, counting increments of time in the hurry. Humans are designed by the eternal omniscient mind, Eon, to survive the human condition. Logically, then, this human condition is a self-controllable event field that we seem to know so little about and which turns out to be the metaphysical generalized conceptioning field of systemic thoughts, anticipatory nature, integral to whatever is relevant to inceptions and conception. To be continued in Part 2, Episode 77. Thank you.